I think we're ready to get into our session. I'm really excited to introduce you all to our expert presenter today. So we've got Camille Imtiaz, who's in technical product marketing for Outtake. Has been here before, a great presenter. Camille, welcome. Take it away.
Hey, thanks, Scott. And thanks for everybody for joining, depending on where you are in the globe. But this session is going to be pretty interesting. We're going to talk about how AI has made impersonation quite easy, but not only easy, but also made it cheap. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what this really means when it comes to your organizations or enterprises when you deal with this problem today, which is, I call it, it's a tsunami that's coming, and we got to be prepared for it. And we also have to create a chain, what I like to call some type of a framework, which I like to call the digital trust kill chain. And this is where we really understand how adversaries are really attacking your brand, people, in some cases, locations like your retail stores and things like that, and products. So let's dive into it. So when we talk about AI, this is not a new news, right? Everybody here, everybody listening in already knows about GenAI. Everybody's using it on a daily basis. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is something that you probably don't really hear a lot, but this is what I like to call something that needs to be addressed and is really, really important. GenAI is also being used by the attackers. So we use it for our productivity. We use it for ourselves and our organizations to get faster, leaner, in some cases, even more productive. And we're actually seeing those results. But what we don't understand is the other side of it, right? That these tools are also available to the attackers. So much so that, a simple kit to impersonate your brand or target some of your executives or pretend like they're your executives will cost you anything under $25. Now, if those of you who've been here around in this cybersecurity space, we used to talk about something called kiddie scripts. That we used to say, oh, now the internet is here, and a kid in the garage sitting there and writing scripts to attack or send these emails and things of that nature, malware. That used to be the thing back then, but now it's even worse with AI, right? We've seen about 8,000 growth in agentic attack in a single year. 75% we know that companies will be using some type of AI-driven security tools. So with the AI exploding, and then the pressure to use AI-driven security tools is colliding in a way because it's hard to catch up. That's why we see 10% of organizations actually are ready to defend, even though we have so much pressure. So everyone has AI. Everybody's using AI. AI is good. And then the only problem is that the defenders have a challenge because we have to deal with all the approvals and the red tape to get things done. But from the attacker's perspective, they can deploy it at full speed. So that's the difference when we really talk about it. And hey, listen, I myself use a lot of tools. I use tools to, create websites. We use Clay to do outreach. We use 11 Labs to create these demo videos and all that cool stuff. These are all good. AI is incredible. But when you flip the script and look at it from the other side, the bad actors also have access to it. So applications like Lovable, Replit, Base44, I'm sure most of you already use it or have played with it. The attackers are using it too, and they're creating fake websites with login portal cloners. Same thing with Clay. Great, amazing. I got more of my ICPs I can target. I got the list. Guess what? Attackers use that to create phishing kits. Okay, I'm going to create these demo videos, learning videos, and security awareness videos using AI. Guess what? The attackers are going to use as identity spoofers. And this is having real impact, right? So some of the articles, I'm sure you go outside on the internet and read what's happening. Threat actors are leveraging AI, conduct social engineering. There's a rise in CEO impersonation scams. And cyber criminals are cyber criminals. If you go 10 years back, if you go to that Nigerian scam, if all of you remember that, imagine Nigerian scam now with AI. The motivation for an attacker is the same, regardless of the tools or the technology. It's like a bank robbery, in and out, take your money, and run. And we've been using, it's not like we've been sitting in on the fences. We have been building our defenses. So if you look at our castle and moat 10 years ago, or even 5-6 years ago, we fortified our internal network. We've created network firewalls, endpoint, EDR, cloud, CNAP, CSPM, and then you have data protection. All of that stuff we really solidified. And what's happening is the attackers, if you understand their motivation, they want to go to the path of least resistance. So they know you invested a lot of money on these technologies and you're pretty hard to get in. When it comes to cyber criminals, they want to get the easiest pass and the cheapest pass to get in. And existing controls cannot stop what they cannot see. It's a very simple formula. If you cannot see it, how are you going to protect it? And what attackers are doing now, they're evading these defenses. They're saying, I got AI now, so I can sit back and let it scan or go outside and do all the things that I need to do to find out exactly what's happening on the outside. So I'm going to evade it. I'm going to go to a place where I can really manipulate your brand, impersonate it, maybe target your people, try to copy them, maybe even find out what locations you are at and maybe scam people through it, or even within the product itself, maybe create a fake app or do something to steal your customers away or to use your tokens and spread it on Facebook and things like that. And the motivation stays the same. You want to make money. And now what we've seen is the parameter has expanded. It's not dead. And the lines are now completely blurred. And how are they doing it? I like to call it kind of a different dimension, right? Like a mirror dimension that they're creating. How do they actually do it? Like every entity you own today shows up millions and even thousands of ways now. Your people, your brand, each has legitimate presence, but it has a malicious mirror. So for example, a brand, you got a real website, spend a lot of money and effort to build it, your social accounts, your mobile applications. The adversaries are looking at it. It's like, hey, you know what? With AI, and I can completely create a lookalike domain. I can create a fake portal. But all the AI tools that I showed you before, they're going to use the same thing to look exactly like yours. And to the untrained eye, it's impossible to tell the difference. Same thing with executives now with synthetic media. You heard about deep fakes, impersonations, even TikTok, and they're going to launch a new product and cloned apps. They'll create a mirror image of it. And this is becoming a real problem because before it was hard to do this, but now it's getting cheaper with AI. We can hide in images, videos, multimodal aspects. They're just coming at different ways. But if you really understand the motivation of these attackers, these all becomes tools that they use. And the problem is the same. The defenders are playing always catch up. I'm sure most of you who've been here in the security space for a long time, you most likely are familiar with the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And this was absolutely amazing to use when you're trying to compartmentalize and categorize your attacks so you can build better defenses. That was the whole purpose behind it, to really understand the techniques of the adversaries. How do they move in? How do they get initial access? How do they actually execute that malware? How do they become persistent within your network and stay quiet for a while? How do they steal your identity? How do they evade your traditional defenses and then move laterally quickly, collect what they need to do, call their home back, command and control, and then start stealing data? And by the time you realize the impact is already too late. So this whole MITRE ATT&CK framework helps security practitioners and defenders to really understand the techniques and the procedures and the tactics that they use so that you can build proper defenses. And it was perfect for, remember I talked about the fortified inside? Perfect for that. So what we're seeing in Outtake is, because we cover the other side of it, which is the digital footprint, the perimeter that you don't really see, perimeter which I like to call the tsunami, because this is where all the adversaries are thriving now. Because number one, it's cheaper. Number two, it's easy. And number three, they can scale at machine speed. And they know your weaknesses. They know that you're still tied up with all the processes and you have probably 60, 70, 80 security tools already deployed inside your network, and you're not expanding your resources. So they know and they thrive in it. So we at Outtake said, you know what, we need to extend this MITRE ATT&CK because we know that the parameter is expanded. So should the techniques and tactics and the understanding of the attackers should also be expanded. And this is where we introduced the digital trust kill chain, and it comprises in 4 different categories. Very similar to the MITRE. This is not a replacement to MITRE. This is what I like to call an extension to it. So if you're familiar with the traditional MITRE, you just extend it with this for their digital footprint. And this is how we map the adversaries. How are they actually attacking our companies today? 4 categories. Number 1, discovery, exposure, and they compromise, and they harm. And I'll get into the details of it in a bit, but just to give you an idea of these 8 stages, where it really happens, from reconnaissance, from infrastructure, and it's all about targeting your trust, right? If they steal the trust of your brand, they're literally steering away your customers that were going to your legitimate site. Maybe 25% of them are going to the wrong site now. So they're really, really taking your, what I call your revenue away from you. So at the bottom of it, at the real layer of it, it's all about exploiting and eroding trust. And we'll talk about in a bit. Reconnaissance, building your infrastructure, exploiting your trust, and then engaging with your customers a bit, then capturing that engagement, like moving them to a different site, having them wire transfer money, and then you start seeing the real impact of fraud. And how are they using it to reinvent themselves and reinvest in their infrastructure so they can get to you even faster? What we've seen at Outtake is pretty, what I call, open your eyes a bit, because under 48 hours, all these stages from start to monetization can happen under 48 hours. And I was just reading the latest CrowdStrike threat report, and they were saying under 29 minutes, an attacker can move laterally inside your network. Once they're inside, they move 29 minutes fast. Now imagine if you combine this with the 48 hours. So then you start thinking about, I need to have proper defenses, more exposure management, proactive defenses that I need to do before the damage is done. So now let's look at all these different, with kind of a high level as to what's happening. So now we look at reconnaissance and infrastructure. Now this is where it's the least costly to defend, because if you're more proactive and you know what's happening and there's no blind spots for you, you can really stop this before this happens. So if you put it in before the boom and after the boom, boom is when the breach happens or when the fraud happens. Whatever you can do before that is cheaper. But once that after the boom, it becomes harder and more costlier. So when it comes to reconnaissance and infrastructure setup, what does that mean? The attackers, what they're doing is using AI and other means to find anything about your company, anything that's public facing, what we like to call OSINT. The attackers really study your entire public attack surface. They look at your LinkedIn, they look at your executive profiles, they look at employee directories. They spend some time, the quality time, really, really understanding and knowing who you are. Before, it used to take hours and weeks to really study and go on the internet and find out everything. Now all they need is GenAI to really learn about your network, learn about your company, learn about your culture. Everything is on their fingertips. And this is examples that we've seen as people using LinkedIn scraping, using personal information profiling, lookalike domain registration, building up thousands and thousands of fake social accounts, really setting up that infrastructure. When we talk about infrastructure, we're not talking about routers and VPNs and the plumbing of the network. This is your, what I call the trust infrastructure. So this is not about the plumbing. This is more about the trust. How can I build this infrastructure in such a way that anybody who comes to it cannot tell the difference? And we've seen what happened in 2024, this lab host, which was shut down by Europol, was because of the availability of AI. They've curated a target list by sector. and linked to about 40,000 plus phishing domains. Now, I'm talking about scale now at machine speed. Imagine this was just one being shut down. How many other operations are there? They're doing this. So this becomes really important when we talk about the whole kill chain. And then that leads us to what you call exposure. Now imagine if they've actually created that infrastructure. What they need to do is build a credible story. They need to build the trust trap, right? So the infrastructure is there. The website looks exactly similar. They got the nice codes. They got the nice pictures. They got all the right stuff in there. They're completely impersonating your brand. There's even a video of your executive as an introduction, right? Or they have fake endorsements, all that things. Why? Because what they want to do is build that trust or steal your trust, which leads to what we call the target engagement. Okay, now I got you. You're listening to me. You're an engaged audience. Now I'm going to start sending you phishing emails, maybe a social DM, a WhatsApp message or Telegram threads, anything that would help me get my target engaged with me as if they're actually talking to a brand. A lot of people would not take the time and effort to actually call the brand and say, hey, I'm getting these emails from you or DMs. Are you really sending it? Because they look so real that it's hard for you to even fathom that it's going to be fake. And MITRE is not there yet. So some of the things that we are defining will eventually be part of MITRE as they expand. And the same lab host offered about 170 plus templates. Imagine having templates for every vertical that you can just copy, paste, and go. And this is where the actual compromise happened. Now, in a traditional MITRE, the compromise is more, moving laterally, stealing your data and moving. In this case, remember the target is not your crown jewels or that Linux server. In here, the target is trust. How are they going to erode your trust? They're going to, target the response that they're getting. They will try to pull the victim to a controlled environment. For example, I got you in, you're engaged with my content, you replied to my email, and I'm going to say, hey, I have this great trading website created by our founder. Go in there, learn the tips and tricks to get rich, and we'll give you all the trading tricks. Just sign up. This becomes a fake trading dashboard, an ongoing broker chat, like you feel like you're part of this exclusive WhatsApp group. I'm sure all of you got that invitation. Join this WhatsApp group for crypto trade tips and tricks, like a counterfeit. And this is where they actually have you pay some type of a payment account, not a big sum. It's not going to be a big heist. But again, it's capturing and the value transfer that's happening, right? In 2026, FBI actually found a Georgia man fabricated profits of this trading website, 50,000 in fake fees. And they also kind of milked the victims with more money later on. So what they're doing, they're compromising and they're literally starting to get money from the victims. This is where the harm happens. When the people start sending money and doing this wire transfer, now the real impact of fraud is shown. This is where the company then wakes up. What did it just happen? Somebody just wired $25 million from a Zoom call, right? Somebody just sending this small amount of money through WhatsApp. And later on, when they're looking at all the books, it's like, hey, where is the money gone? This is where they really, the impact to the organization is seen. And then what attackers are actually doing is they're running a business, a campaign. So they take that money and reinvest in their infrastructure. So they learn from what they've just attacked. And they know it's just not one victim. They just don't stop at that one victim. They go and fund the next campaign infrastructure, get bigger and better the next time they come in. So it becomes really important to not look at it at the surface level, because a lot of people just look at this like, oh, there's a fake website, a fake domain, I just take them down and we're okay. No, there's a whole campaign infrastructure behind it that needs to be exposed. And what I've found organization doing is struggling in this space is because the structure that's out there right now is not built to defend this new world. Your digital risk defense today is fragmented. Most of the time, the employees are coming to you and saying, hey, this looks like a fake website. Hey, this looks like a fake WhatsApp group. What's happening here? And then people start looking into it. So we are becoming more and more reactive. Why? Because we have all these siloed tools. We say, okay, let's go to that takedown service. Okay, let's go just have this fraud application, or just have this abuse inbox. And all of them are generating alerts, whereas there's nothing unifying at all. While on the right-hand side, you see the streamlined operations from adversaries doing all the work. That's the difference. Now, what do? We can say, okay, great, I get it. This is a problem, but how do I get to the stage to stop all this from happening? But before you take any step, it's really important to understand what the adversary motivations are. I just walk you through some of the tactics on a high level. What do they use? The more you understand this, the better your strategy and your approach and your defenses will be. Winning this digital trust requires a strategic approach, which means you need to understand your digital footprint. Now, this is what was a very, very hard problem to solve before AI was here. For example, how can you index the entire internet? Just like Google did in indexing your entire internet. How can you do that for digital trust? Right? So you got to know your full digital footprint as an entity. I am, for example, McDonald's, for example. I need to know my entire digital footprint. Is there a way to do it? Once that's done, then we need to map every identity attack surface across all their entities, from brand, people, location, products, and then trace all the network and the threats and connects the dots. Find out what's fake, what kind of infrastructure is out there, what kind of signals can I get. Once you combine all that information and connect the dot, then you become the dismantling. I don't like to call it takeout, because takeout sounds like just take out one thing and you're done. No, dismantling means you're completely making the adversary operation worthless, expensive for them. They don't have the money and time to rebuild again. It's like, let's move on. That's the goal. And then you need to wait to measure and adapt so that next time it happens, you're already covered. It's not like you have to do the same thing all over again. And what I found is like 82% of organization has no purpose-built platform for it. Like I showed you earlier, fragmented tools. But if you want to really tackle this problem and stop this tsunami from attacking you, you got to take this strategic approach. And what we've done at Outtake is exactly that. So we like to call it the next-gen digital risk protection. And why? Because in this new world, you need to have that capability of mapping the entire trust footprint. And this was impossible to do it a few years ago, but with agentic tech, now that we have millions of agents that we can send out and map your entire entity out there. And it's like a living registry that we keep. We learn every brand, every person, every location, every product about your entity so that we can catch it fast. And this is done by the powers of what we call agentic search, because we have thousands, even in some cases, millions of agents. Imagine 24/7 going on the internet for your sake, for your identity, finding out all the fakes and whatever's out there and giving that information to you, which is populating our digital reservoir that remembers every threat, connects every dot, and then goes deeper into maybe one malicious domain within your that's coming out as a fake for your brand, and then going deeper and going to the roots down to like 45 different 40 different nodes and 35 different connections beneath to find out like, hey, this was not just one social fake ad, but there's a whole operation behind it that I had no clue about. And then you need to have these adaptive workflows that allows you to take them down and then learn from it. Not just take it down and forget it, but loop it back into a digital repository. So at Outtake, we look at brand, people, location, product very carefully. And every layer has an agentic component to it that actually doing all the hard work for you. So that at the end of the day, when you get that alert, when you get that, hey, this looks bad, hard work is already done. Then you use your human judgment to make a decision. What do you want to do? You want to report it, or you want to take it down? And finally, if you look at all these different things, how does it actually map to what I just talked about, those stages? Right now, we walk through the stages of how Outtake really helps. So if you look at discovery from stages 1 to 2, Our agentic search and entity registration, this is giving you a proactive power. Because like I mentioned, you cannot defend what you cannot see. That has to be the first step. You got to know continuously, proactively mapping everything across your digital footprint, knowing about that infrastructure, and then keeping it alive, because what's happening out there, these new infrastructures bubble up every day. So you cannot set it and forget it, because you got to continuously look at it. When it comes to exposure, okay, now you know your footprint. Now Outtake, what it does is it does all this mapping and graphing and all the narrative intelligence around it, what people are saying about your brand, what's the sentiment, what's this, across 45 different surfaces, mapping and narrative intelligence coming together to reduce your exposure. And then really sending out these agents. Their agents are reasoning and talking and self-healing, and you can fine-tune them while they're in flight to triage all that stuff for you, so you don't have to look at 50,000 alerts and false positives all the time. When you get an alert, you know this is legit. This is actually targeting your brand in such and such a way that if you look at that particular website or even that ad, it wouldn't even have the name of your brand. And we'll still flag it because it has some level, the depth that we go into. It's not just keywords, right? So it's different angles, and how you can do it, triaging these agents. And at the end of the day, it's more remediation. Okay, great, I found it. The number one problem that I see with customers is, or the pain that they go through, is these takedowns. Who's going to open a case? It's going to take months. I got to provide all the evidence. I got to call these people. But we take care of it, right? It's really important, especially in these AI world. This is the number one benefit. If you're not utilizing AI to do that boring stuff for you, this is where it really protects you from the harm, right? If we dismantle the infrastructure, it makes it more costly for them to build new ones, and they'll never come back to you again. So our remediation agents treats every incident feed, every detection cycle back into the reservoir, so the harm and the payout stage of the campaign is completely taken out. And it sharpens our capability of learning, and the next time you come into a platform, it's already taken care of. It's almost like when you watch Netflix for a while and you watch certain types of category movies, and all of a sudden you start seeing recommendation. Imagine the same flow where first you go through Outtake and you do a couple of takedowns, and then the platform learns. And next time the things that start bubbling up, you're like, oh my God, I had no clue. This is really, really legit stuff that's coming up now. So that's the power of having more of a next-gen DRP. And the legacy DRPs can't handle it, because the two things that they do, they just look at the surface level, maybe just take down, or maybe they connect, well, it's connected to an email, it's connected to this, but they don't go to the roots. So you're always calling them up and saying, hey, in most cases, you're actually sending them the spreadsheet of the domains that you want to. It should be the other way around. Proactively, we should be looking, you shouldn't be calling them. So that sometimes boggles my mind. The customers still have to go through it. But yes, in here, you don't need separate 5 tools, one tool, one platform across all zones taking care of it. And it has to plug into your internal ecosystem. Where we see Outtake fitting in, and you can send it to a SIM, you can send it to a SOAR, you can have Jira tickets and all that stuff kind of tweaked in, because this is really important. We also have APIs you can call in and get this great intel and enhance your operations. It becomes really, really important. So at the end of it, just wanted to thank you for joining this. And if you want to see how this, looking at this chain, how this maps to your organization, we are more than happy to walk you through it. You can see the demo, you can see it live. It's pretty fascinating the way we do it. But with that, thanks for joining, and we'll hope to speak to you soon.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Camille. That was really really interesting. I just like that concept of expanding the MITRE ATT&CK framework among other things, and some of those attacks were pretty nasty. But before we get to the prize drawing here, we have one quick favor to ask of you all today. So Arena's opening up a short survey that we'd really appreciate if you could all fill out. So this is for those of us on the actual tech media team. We just want to know how we're doing and what y'all like and don't like about our sessions. Really want to make sure that we're meeting your needs, and the results of this survey are going to affect how we deliver these events for you in the future. So we'll give you all just another minute to fill that out. While you're doing that, I do want to mention once again in the docs section, there's that link to the Outtake page. Camille had talked about booking a demo. That book a demo link is on that page that's linked there in the docs. It's called Outtake. It's prominent in a couple different places. So if you want to do that, it's an easy place to click and do it. Okay, and we do have one more piece of business before we wrap up. It's the prize giveaway, and today's winner of a $250 Amazon gift card is Randy Claiborne from Tennessee. So congratulations to Randy Claiborne. As always, we'll be in touch about claiming your prize after the event. And with that, on behalf of the actual tech media team, I want to thank Outtake for making this event possible. And big thank you to everybody in the audience for joining us today. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day. It's great having you all here for this actual tech media event. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Have a great rest of your day.